Drew Barrymore is not my girlfriend in this scene, but that's probably a good thing because I would have been gutted by the end of it. The events of this movie happened 20 years ago, but even then, stovetop popcorn was very much a thing of the past.
Halloween. You know, the one with the guy in the white mask who walks around and stalks babysitters?
Nope, never heard of it. Thanks for the plot synopsis.
What's yours?
Yes.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Hey, since we're being self-referential, how about Firestarter?
I like that movie. It was scary.
Wow, well, the first one was, but the rest sucked.
Even Wes Craven's new Nightmare? Hello, Wes? Are you gonna let you get away with this? Yeah, let's turn those outside lights off. This is the right time to conserve and go green. Does she know about answering machines? Not answering the phone is very much an option. Jesus, every fucking door in this house was unlocked. How many doors does someone need to go in and out of in one house while you're alone without ever locking them back?
I am 2 seconds away from calling the police.
They'd never make it in time.
So therefore, don't even bother, because the killer on the other end of the line said so.
To see what your insides look like.
Who's there?
Land shark?
My boyfriend will be here any second and he'll...
The killer wasn't threatened by the police, but he will definitely be frightened of the imminent arrival of her high school-age boyfriend. How did the killers get Steve taped up to this chair since the last time Casey looked outside? Remember, one of them is talking to Casey, and the other one is probably Matthew Lillard, so setting this up would not be easy.
I saw that movie 20 goddamn times!
You did? How could you be so well-versed on the first Friday the 13th and not know Mrs. Voorhees was the damn killer? Realize that absolutely no one is visible in these shots who could be cutting out Steve's intestines right now, unless there was some sort of elaborate Rube Goldberg device knocking over a final domino.
Final question. Are you ready?
Please leave me alone.
Girl who literally just found out her boyfriend was dead by seeing him 20 feet away gutted like a fish says please leave me alone to the killer on the phone instead of
There are 2 main doors to your house.
Just 2? Last time she ran around locking doors, I counted at least 5. There's no way, even in a 2-killer system, that the one in costume could have known Casey was here for a perfectly timed scare, unless he's got a fucking radio in his hood. Now he's throwing his entire body through the window, like it's no big deal, without a rip or tear in his cheaply made Party City Halloween costume. Instead of continuing to run in this car's direction, she stops, giving the killer time to do that. Thankfully, for the sake of the parents' most horrific evening ever, Casey, though stabbed multiple times, still somehow holds on to the cordless phone while being dragged away. Again, these two have to be virtually supernatural killers to hang Casey like this in the amount of time that they had.
I heard screaming.
No, you didn't.
No?
Obvious teen cover-up behavior is obvious, but father forgets all about it anyway.
And so I won't be back till Sunday.
Her dad probably told her all this information before this point, but he repeats it now so Billy, who is definitely the killer, would know that she would be home alone.
The Exorcist was on. Got me thinking of you.
Especially the crucifix scene, so sexy. Discount Johnny Depp from Crybaby hairstyle.
They're interrogating the entire school.
Maybe they should just look for the person that has a busted lip, broken nose, sore crotch, and a cut-up hand from punching through a window.
The police just want to ask you a few questions.
Creepy principal touches his students in a weird way in front of the cops.
How do you gut someone?
That's an amazing Kristen Stewart impression, considering Kristen Stewart was only 6 years old when this film was made.
Are the police aware that you dated the victim?
Apparently not, even after asking the whole damn school questions today.
Stu was with me last night, okay?
Yeah, it was.
What? Considering what we find out later, did Stu have a twin that was with her last night? Does she not know the time of death? What the f***? Or are you saying Billy did all that himself?
Authorities are baffled by the lack of clues.
Not even phone records? Later we find out they clone a cell phone to frame Sydney's dad. But whose phone did they clone this time? Steve's? Otherwise, wouldn't Sydney's dad or whoever's cell phone they cloned be a suspect right now?
Your front porch.
Girl whose mom was killed a year ago and who is home alone now and who knows 2 teens were murdered last night chooses to walk toward the front porch after hearing this.
I call your bluff.
You do? After 2 of your classmates were murdered? After you yourself have been on edge because of how similar it is to your own mom's killing? Do Billy and Stu actually want to kill Sydney right now? According to the grand scheme they admit to her later, they try and pin it on her dad, who went crazy on the 1-year anniversary of her mom's death. But today is not that anniversary, and they have a lot more people to kill before the grand finale. So was this the plan, or did they add victims on the fly? Why aren't you killing her? Oh, I see, you were waiting for the kick she needed extra time to muster. Got it. If your phone is dead, then how does your internet work? In 1996, it was pretty much all dial-up. Billy showing up during the attack should set off all your alarm bells, except the movie goes so far out of its way to belittle typical horror cliches that you in no way suspect him, even after he drops this suspicious phone and everyone in the movie starts suspecting him, which is why I'm giving this movie 1 cent off right here. Only seconds after her 911 computer chat, the cops show up at her house holding the ghost face mask up to the door, only to scare whoever opens the door shitless. I guess it's okay he left his costume behind, as it doesn't seem like the police will use it to find any actual evidence, like hairs. They're just letting everyone touch it and put it wherever.
Let me ask you this. What are you doing with a cellular telephone, son?
Ah, the 90s, when someone with a cell phone could be considered suspicious just because they had a cell phone. Woodsboro police have been looking for the boob inspector for years, but he's right under their noses.
Isn't there a back way out of this place?
There sure is. And guess what? Perfect timing to run into Sydney, who's leaving out the back way this very minute. No one is worried about the assault Sydney just committed around a bunch of cops.
Broke into their home and savagely raped and tortured.
Jesus, why would you even have this on in the first place if Sydney is staying the night?
It's called tact, you Greg.
Also, corn checks.
Don't worry, Sid, at school, you'll be safe here.
Unapologetic Sydney decides she needs to talk to Gail after punching her for some reason, and that reason is the expositional backstory for the audience.
He left his coat at your house after your mother seduced him.
I saw him leave wearing it.
How did this scenario unfold? Sydney's mom was banging Cotton while Sydney was at home? Then a killer came in and made sure Sydney could see him leaving with Cotton's conveniently left behind jacket on? There's some serious details missing from this narrative.
I was attacked and nearly filleted last night.
That seems to be a stretch from clumsily chased by a dude in a costume, which would have been my interpretation of last night's events.
Your mom left town. She's not lying in a coffin somewhere.
Okay. Lying in a coffin somewhere is a strange way of describing that your mother is dead. The principal made them leave the masks on so he could dramatically take them off.
Fairness would be to rip your insides out. Hang you from a tree.
Movie's Everyone's a Suspect structure is helped out tremendously by the way over the top and most inappropriate principal ever.
She was never attacked. I think she made it all up.
Cruel bathroom girl resumes a conversation that was obviously in a total dead stop for at least 10 seconds while Sydney walked in. Plus, she apparently didn't even hear Sydney come in and decided to talk at full volume for any asshole to hear it.
Someone there?
This is what you do when an empty bathroom calls your name. Of course, you do not run the bloody f***ing hell out of there immediately. Was the killer just staking out the bathroom, hoping she would come in? If so, he got incredibly lucky, because it didn't take her much time to use that particular bathroom. Sydney's almost been murdered twice, but instead of being protected by the police in her own home, she decides to go to a party, where someone could easily lose track of her whereabouts. The movie is spending entirely too much time on whether the Fonz did this. It's literally impossible for anyone to have knocked on this door and disappeared in time. Movie ninja magic is the only explanation. Hey kids, that's Wes Craven playing Freddy Krueger. And if you're a kid, how do you know what that means? You have awful parents. So, what we are now to believe is that Billy's been hiding in this office this whole time, waiting to kill the principal. Why would the killer be going after this asshole? As bad as this guy is, it's unbelievable Billy or Stu would waste time on him before the big finale. The killer is snooping around in costume in broad daylight.
Now that's in poor taste.
Okay, just a second ago we saw the ghost face running around Sydney's backyard. Now both killers are here in the video store, somehow, despite someone running around the Prescott property for what was apparently no reason.
Now that Billy tried to mutilate her, do you think Sid would go out with me?
Who the f*** asks this question to the best friend of the guy who was going out with the girl you're interested in?
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula.
Randy isn't fired immediately. This store is closing due to the curfew, and not due to the fact that they rent books on tape. Right.
You know, with all the sex stuff, how many guys would put up with a girlfriend who's sexually anorexic?
This kind of metaphor is what I like to call tone-deaf and inappropriate. Come on, in a grocery store? How are they everywhere at once?
Dewey, where the hell you been?
I was keeping an eye on Sydney.
So you're the killer. Wait a minute. No, you're not. How did you miss the ghost face running around in the grocery store?
Sydney's father. He made the calls with the cellular phone's been confirmed.
And to Casey Becker? Did anyone remember to check the phone records during that? And why would Sid's dad kill Casey and Steve anyway? This town is under a 9 p.m. curfew, but not only is a teenage rager allowed to go on, one of the town's 3 cops is actually in attendance. That garage is a great place to keep the beer, because it's apparently very cold. And somehow at this huge party, no one is in this section of the house at all, giving free rein for Ghostface killings. These guys went full out when it came to horror tropes, didn't they? Just walking through the door and killing Tatum would have been easier. But first, you gotta have the door closed mysteriously, even though your victim won't be alive to tell the tale. Based on the way the killer is moving around, I would like to suggest that the killer is Jim Carrey. I suppose, in a panic, you'd think you could fit through a door made for a cat, but I'm sending it anyway. And then, this garage door apparently has no safety features whatsoever, and decides to lift with an extra load on it because f*** how things work. And still, no one near this area who can see Ghostface, and the killer risks being seen as he goes back into the view of the party area. No one seems to be concerned where Tatum is. Also, if there was only beer in the garage, how did no one discover her body wedged in the garage door?
I'm gonna go check on them.
People constantly say they're going to do something that makes us think they're the killer, but they definitely aren't going to do.
It's all one great big movie.
He doesn't turn to the camera and wink.
Why can't I be a Meg Ryan movie?
I'm not sure I follow. Do you want to be Meg Ryan in a movie, or the movie itself? Neither option makes this an appropriate statement for foreplay.
Or even a good porno?
How are those two things even remotely related? It's like you want both extreme ends of the spectrum and nothing in between.
Look, here it comes.
So they all decided to watch Halloween, but in the time we've seen, how the f*** did they get this far into it already? Years later, Gale Weathers used this footage to pitch the Paranormal Activity franchise.
He was gutted and hung from the goalpost on the football field.
Are we supposed to believe that the bumbling killer was able to remove the principal's body from the school, take it to the football field, and hang him from the goalposts while the town is in complete lockdown, and the police are on the look for the killer? This is clearly the best town in the world to commit murder.
What about Gale Weathers? Sounds like I'm a meteorologist or something.
Did you not pick your own reporter name? Did the station somehow assign you the name Gale Weathers and you had no choice in the matter? Guy and girl who like each other fall down and roll on top of each other cliché.
It's Neil Prescott's car.
The only reason they came out here is because someone reported a parked car in the woods, but who the could have seen and reported this? If it's Billy and Stu, what do they have to gain by calling that in? Especially way ahead of finishing all their killings.
Who'd you call?
What?
Well, obviously she means who you called when you were in jail. Duh.
Called my dad.
Sydney has a suspicion that Billy used his one phone call to call her as the killer while in jail to serve as an alibi. But there are many things wrong with this. First off, how would he be able to modulate his voice while in prison? Second off, the phone call happened much later in the evening, long after Billy was questioned by the sheriff with his dad present, so there was really no reason to have a phone call at that moment. Third off, I'm doubting why Billy even needed to make a phone call himself when he has Stu helping him out. But that's what this movie is trying to say, because why would Billy even need to lie about who he called if he simply got Stu to make the killer phone call?
You don't still think it was me, do you?
The guy I just slept with? Why would I suspect him? I'm serious here. Why would I a dude and still think he might be the killer? Huh? Why?
What do I have to do to prove to you that I'm not a killer?
Relationships where this question needs to be asked are likely not bound to last long term.
Oh my God.
Sydney decides to use the non-urgent way of communication when it comes to a killer coming into the room. Although, to be fair, the other killer just came in the room a few minutes ago and she reacted the same way. Thankfully, this party is taking place at a home where bedroom doors lock from the outside. Sydney is saved by the significant wealth of all these families in this movie. Although, what's so soft in a boat that she could land on it without breaking anything?
Watch out, Jamie. You know he's around.
Gotta say, getting Jamie Kennedy to say, "Watch out, Jamie," and "Behind you, Jamie," while he himself is in a situation where he should be watching out for a killer who's behind him is pretty inspired. We'll remove a sin for this cleverness. Sydney couldn't run to the gate that was only 10 feet away. Why did the killer decide not to kill Randy, with the sudden inspiration to go outside and run towards the news van? Because while this 30-second delay is extremely clever, it makes no sense for the killer to act this way. Also, Kenny knows about the 30-second delay, which means the killer could be anywhere at this point, but still decides to open the door anyway. Sydney is able to crawl through a space that is even smaller than the one Tatum tried to crawl through in the garage. Why did he go through the crawl space? Halloween is either the shortest or the longest movie ever, depending on your perspective of how long it's been playing in this movie. Gale apparently thinks, oh, this red oozing substance is normal. Let me just wipe it off with my sleeve. Wait, it's on the outside of the car? It's clear now to me that it's blood. The killer had time and used his intermittent super strength to put Kenny on top of the van for no apparent reason.
Dewey!
Her mouth says no, but I heard her say Dewey. I have to commend Sydney. Her ventriloquism skills are on point, but this is no time to practice. Dewey survives this, I guess because the knife doesn't hit any major organs. But wouldn't he bleed out? What kind of cop car is this that you can attack someone in the front seat from the back? Don't they usually have criminal detaining mesh or glass or something? Killer who definitely has a knife decides to grab this girl's throat instead of killing her, even though his sole purpose is to kill her. Even though Randy was 2 feet in front of him, he couldn't manage a kill shot.
Corn syrup.
So, if that's corn syrup, how did they manage that sleight of hand in the bedroom earlier?
Surprise, Sydney.
Well, damn. Horror movies had not done anything cool like having two killers for a really long time, so for that, it's worth a sin-off.
Tell that to Cotton Weary.
And despite numerous attempts at Sydney's life, I guess she earned a monologue or two so that she can be saved.
Oh, this is the greatest part. You're gonna love this.
Wait, you planned this big finale so she'd see your genius? Why were you trying to kill her a million times before this? Also, why would a killer hell-bent on Sydney-based revenge wait an entire year and then go after Drew Barrymore?
It's a Scream, baby!
Roll credits. Although, to be fair, Scream was not the original title. It was actually Scary Movie, which they later used for the spoof franchise. So the roll credits actually came somewhere in the Drew Barrymore scene.
He kills you and shoots himself in the head. Perfect ending.
Unless the detectives do forensics and find out he was bound and gagged and the bullet couldn't have been self-inflicted because of the angle it came in, and the fingerprints on the stuff you're framing him with. But you're probably right. Who does forensics anymore?
I thought of that.
No, you didn't. You didn't even have a gun until Sydney took it off Dewey. So you did not plan for the shooting in the head part unless there's a second gun, which there is not. Billy and Stu stabbed themselves to make it look like they got attacked. But shouldn't this take place after they kill Sydney and her dad? Also, didn't Sydney call the cops from Dewey's police car a minute ago? Did the police station just ignore the call about people dying? And ignore that Sydney gave a full address where it was all going down?
Gun, man, the gun. I put her right there. It's not there.
Yet Gale Weathers somehow stole this gun and decided not to show she had it until it was dramatic enough to do so. Luckily for Sydney and her creepy dad, Gale somehow survives running her van off the road and hitting a tree head-on going 40 miles an hour with only minor scratches.
Man, I thought she was dead. She looked dead, man. Still does.
How did Stu have time to check the van, which crashed all the way down here, then communicate that to his partner, with all the they've been doing?
I know something you don't.
Gun still has its safety on, cliche.
This is Gale Weathers signing off.
Why didn't you just stab her? And doesn't that mess up your plan a bit? Isn't the dad supposed to use that gun to kill himself? Why would he stab everybody but shoot Gale?
What?
Yeah, you expected Sydney to just stand there this whole time while your backs were turned. She must be hiding under the sofa cushions. Check there. And for reasons unknown, Sydney decides to put on the ghost face costume to kill Billy. Gale ex machina. Also, how the hell did she get the gun? Yeah, Billy dropped it when Sydney stabbed him with the umbrella and Sydney kicked it away from him, but she never ran in here to get it.
This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare.
Yeah, but is Billy supernatural like those other killers were? So, is the sun just now coming up? Did it take the cops 5 hours to get to this house? Why are they just now taking Dewey away? There was probably a lot of traffic, because those crazy drunk driving teenagers that were driving to the high school to see the dead principal all crashed their cars and died, which just goes to show you, alcohol is the real killer. The more you know.
Friends are calling you, ding-a-ling-a-ling. Horses, 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 horses,
jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is.
If you were in your office right now, we'd be having this conversation face to face.
Looking at cleavage is like looking at the sun. You don't stare at it. It's too risky. You get a sense of it, then you look away.
Cotton murdered my mother.
Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Oh my God! They killed